Hello, I am Shadowy Collective, and welcome to an extension of the Shadowy Collective. So, I didn't really explain what the Shadowy Collective was on the last non-stream video. So, I'm going to explain it further. Like I said, I'm very uneducated. As much as I would like to learn to achieve my goals, I've not been able to. And honestly, school makes me kind of despise studying. I believe school is outdated. Everyone is always saying that the school system is bad without ever offering any solutions. Or they say that students are cheating with AI. But I feel like we should ask why students are even cheating in the first place. I believe it's a mix of priorities. Learning should be fun, but school puts pressure on you that you sort of view it as a negative thing. If I don't get a good grade, my parents will be mad. If I don't maintain my GPA, I won't get into a good college. If I don't do well in college, I won't make good money. The focus isn't on how well am I learning as a student, but how good are my grades, because they will determine how I'll live my life. And if the stakes are so high, then cheating doesn't seem like a terrible option. It sort of reminds me how when I was younger and would be allowed we time if I would read, but I would get yelled at if I didn't. So the easy way with less risk was to skim the book and tell my parents a random paragraph I read to get what I wanted. And I feel like I would have enjoyed reading if I was told why I had to read, instead of just being told I had to, or else I'd get in trouble. And I mean, I always hear school teaches you what to think when they should teach you how to think. And you have to do exactly what they want, or at least pretend you are, as they're kind of holding your life on a line of grades. There's this video by Zoe Bee that I really like. She talks about a lot of the issues I've been thinking about, though I don't really agree with her final solutions. Here's what I like to show from her video.
So teachers and administrators, and even parents to some extent, think that grades are these really helpful tools that measure our learning, communicate that measurement to us, and then work to motivate us to do the stuff we need to do to succeed in school. But as I'm sure that most of us can attest, it doesn't really feel that way to students. I mean, how well do grades actually meaningfully measure our learning? Imagine you've written a paper, and when you get it back, you see that it says A- at the top. What does this communicate to you? Does it mean that you have successfully learned how to write a paper? If you received a C-, does that mean you didn't successfully learn how to write a paper? Or does it mean that you can do some things well, like organization or writing thesis statements, but you struggle with other things like topic sentences or comma splices? Or maybe it means you wrote a perfect paper, but you just turned it in a few days late. This is even the case for more objective subjects like math. If you've taken an algebra test and you see you have a B+, what does that mean? Does it mean you know all the concepts but just made a couple arithmetic errors? Does it mean you understand most of the concepts, but it's just one type of question that really throws you off? Does it mean you actually understand everything, but you didn't eat breakfast that morning, or you were distracted during the test because you had a headache, or you didn't get enough sleep last night because you had to stay up late to work on that English paper? And even if you had comments on your tests explaining exactly what you did well and what you needed to improve on, research shows that if a paper has comments and a grade, most students just skip the comments and focus only on the grade. When something is graded, feedback is ignored. And even if we knew what grades meant, there's still a difference between what different instructors think constitutes A-level work. I mean, you know which teachers are the easy graders at your school, right? So clearly, grades are not a great measurement of our learning, and they do even worse at communicating this supposed learning to us. And it wouldn't really matter if grades were this inaccurate if they were just a simple number that only you and your teacher and maybe your parents ever saw, if they were just this communication device. But they aren't. For our entire academic careers, we're told over and over and over again how important grades are. They dictate which colleges we get into, what kinds of scholarships we get, if any, and which companies will hire us. And as students, we are all too aware of this. So we do everything we can to keep that GPA up. We take classes from the easy graders, we choose the easier topics for our projects, We avoid challenges, even though challenges are what actually promotes learning. We avoid risk, because failure, even if failure just means getting a B, is really hard to recover from. We're told that we need to learn from our mistakes, but how can we risk making mistakes when everything is on the line? We're told failure is good, it's a learning experience, but we're punished for it. We make ourselves literally sick with anxiety because our entire futures are dependent on our grades. If grades don't actually evaluate and communicate our learning in a consistent and useful way, then we're doing all of this just to get an arbitrary number that doesn't really measure anything real. So, what about motivation? Well, grades certainly feel like motivators. Like I explained earlier, we're willing to do pretty much anything for a good grade, and bad grades are terrifying, so we'll do pretty much anything to avoid them. To most students, grades don't feel so much like achievements of how much we've grown and learned and accomplished. Good grades feel like carrots on sticks, dangled in front of us by teachers. And bad grades feel like guns pointed at our heads until we do our work quickly and quietly and behave ourselves and sit down and shut up. Even if grades did measure learning, the motivation they provide, the carrot on the stick and the gun to our heads, wouldn't actually increase our learning. In fact, grades actually hinder learning. Because, as it turns out, everything we think we know about motivation is wrong.
Her video is very long, but I highly recommend watching it because the rest of the video is really interesting. And sort of changing topics, I also recently watched a video by Cooper Galanis. He was an engineering major and he had to take a music appreciation class, which he got a D on, and said that it obliterated his GPA. Here's a clip.
School has gone from being a necessary archive of critical information to an arbitrary list of subjects whose victims are forced to attend and are punished when they don't learn the right things in the right way at the right time. Here's some random information on a topic you don't give a rat's ass about. Learn it by next week or you're objectively a bad person according to our grading system that condenses a person's collective knowledge into a single number. This is quite possibly the most effective way to make someone hate learning possible.
Universities tell us we need to take all these random classes to be well-rounded. And I understand and even agree to a certain point, but I think the approach they take make it feel more as an obligation when they should feel naturally curious for all types of classes. So how do we end up determining what classes make who well-rounded? Should Cooper have also taken a geography class, an art class, a programming class, a sports class, a woodworking class? I mean, the list could go forever when he just went to school for engineering. This is similar to what happened to me. I came to university for biology, but my planet geology class and my philosophy class brought my GPA down and distracted me from my main classes because I didn't want to fail these general education classes. And the thing is, I really like philosophy, but I think his class was way harder than the other teachers that teach the same class. I've noticed this throughout my life as I've gone to schools in different countries and have generally switched schools every other year or every 2 years, which always have different curriculums, and I believe is why I'm so behind, since I sometimes miss topics when switching schools or even be ahead in some classes because of the difference in curriculums. If schools and classes can vary so much between countries and even within the same school, then I feel like our education and grades are based more around where you're born, what school you go to, and what class variation you take, as they can be so different. I've heard of a test where people ask children in different countries why some kids do well in math when others don't. And in some countries, they say it's because the one who does well has studied hard, while the other countries say that it's because those kids are smarter. I believe this is called fixed versus growth mindset. And this is also why I don't believe smart and stupid people exist, but knowledgeable and ignorant ones do. I mean, if you compare children from the US and China on their math, then you can see the difference. However, I think there are benefits and downsides to both school systems. because the focus becomes on how well I can do in school or on tests instead of learning for personal reasons, curiosity, or strive to change or understand the world better. Again, I'm not saying school is bad. I just think it's outdated. So back to the Shadowy Collective. I'm not saying I'm going to single-handedly fix the education all on my own, but I will at least fix my own education and reach my personal goals and ideas. Like the second clip I showed said, school was a necessary archive of critical information, but there is so much you can learn online. That's honestly how I've kind of been going through my classes anyway. When I was taking chemistry, there was no way I would have been able to pass my class if I didn't have the organic chemistry tutor to help me understand topics. I think this is because I could rewatch as many times as I needed than the one lecture the teacher gave us with a massive boring book. I mean, the only upside to school I can think of is having a teacher you can ask questions to. But I also feel like that doesn't have to be the only place. And I'm also not saying that's what I'm trying to make the Shadowy Collective to be, but I do have this idea where I'll make an educational website anyone can access for free without making any sort of account, though they can if they want. But I also think a project like this would require a lot of money, and why it's also not been done before. So I sort of came up with the other idea of making a subscription-based 3D multiplayer game based on the website with a storyline tied to the real world that could be a fun hangout to study and play with friends. And I know that's a lot, but my ideas are so extensive that I can't really explain it, and I feel like I'd rather just show it. My idea for the website, however, is much different than K-Hine Academy or stuff like Brilliant. People won't be rewarded for studying. The reward would be sort of like the knowledge you acquire, but I also have some ideas for how they can use this knowledge to make it fun. There would also not be traditional scores on learning, as I feel that would also hinder their learning. And I mean, that's oversimplifying my ideas by a lot. I have such a ridiculous amount of ideas written on my Notion pages that I have been thinking for such a long time. There are still some issues with my ideas, but I can't just keep thinking about them without ever learning how to make a game. I don't want to reveal anything yet, as I don't want to create expectations, and I think it would be more fun to reveal them as I go. And maybe I'm just in over my head. I have no clue how to program, use Blender, Unreal, Unity, or anything of the sorts. But I've seen games with similar concepts to what I would want to make. And they were made by people. And I'm a person, so surely I could figure it out. I don't really get why there aren't more educational games that help you grow while being fun rather than just being for entertainment. Or at least the way I envision them. But I guess that's also why I'm doing YouTube, Twitch, and Discord. So I can build a community to help me stay accountable and learn faster. And maybe we could learn together for our own unique goals and ideas. And if no one ends up watching me, then I guess just YouTube by itself can help me keep myself accountable, as I'll be tracking my progress and be able to look back on it. One day, I'll start working on the Shadowy Collective and maybe potentially have an audience for it, with people who might want to help me make it real by volunteering or even helping me learn new skills. I did switch my major to computer science because I realized going to school for my original biology idea wasn't going to work, or at least it wasn't going to work in the way I thought it would. But even if the Shadowy Collective idea doesn't work, I still have other ideas that would require computer science. Maybe I just don't want to live a life where I have to go to school to get an okay job to make okay money for the rest of my life and then just die. I want to learn so I can reach Parasanctum. And if I don't act on my ideas, I'll always wonder what if, for as long as I live. I mean, I've posted 4 videos on private, and I've live streamed 3 videos on private to myself. My Discord has even been on private for over 2 years now. I think maybe I'm just scared to act on my ideas, but no matter what anyone says or how old I feel, I'm still gonna try. So this is a promise to myself that after posting this video, I'll make one more live stream, post and edit that live stream, and then make all of my stuff public. So yeah, I know I haven't really explained my ideas very well, but if you would like, you could join the Discord and maybe someday find out what I plan. Or if you just want to come and study or learn with me. as of recording and posting this. I'm kind of currently very focused and extremely behind on Java and physics for school. And I want to study algebra, trigonometry, calculus, C++, and maybe Python on the side. Like I said, I am very behind, but I'm still willing to try. Okay, bye. I love you.